This past week or so, I've had this tune in my head. I purchased Ray Charles's Greatest Hits CD, and the tune that keeps playing in my head all week is his romantic hit that he had, "You Don't Know Me." That sense of feeling as though one is not known or that one is misunderstood, that's a painful feeling to have. It's a feeling that gets expressed by God through the prophets of God, like Isaiah. So much of the relationship that God entered into with Israel is one where God could sing Ray Charles's tune over and over again. You don't know me. My ways are not your ways, we hear another prophet say. We know God is so different. God is a mystery, and mystery, of course, is essential to being part of divinity. But God continuously wants us to know Him better. God's always inviting us into a deeper relationship, both as individuals and collectively as human beings. Sadly, the sense of not being known, of being misunderstood, is something that we humans, of course, feel with one another from time to time. Ray Charles's song is about a guy who is in love with a gal. The two are just friends, however, in her mind, but for him it's much more than that. You'll never know the one who loves you so. No, you don't know me. On another level, this song could be a song sung by a black person to a white audience. You don't know me. I was struck by something that a Missouri state senator said after the 2014 killing of teenager Michael Brown in Ferguson, Missouri. He said, "The citizens of Ferguson are saying we are constantly othered, and that otherness diminishes our potential to be active and equal participants within the system and ideals that are America." His turning the word other into a verb struck me back then, and it still does. I'll explain a little bit more later. I have an Irish friend who's always bothered by our American way of what's called verbing, taking a subject, a noun, turning it into a verb, like journaling, friending. Othering is an old problem. People who are perceived to be different from the majority have always been othered. Different language, different race, different culture, sex, whatever it is. We even have an example of it in today's gospel. This woman that comes up to Jesus is a woman, we're told, from the Canaanite culture. That's the ancient enemy of Israel. They're the ones who were occupying the Holy Land before the Jews when they came in from Egypt. Jesus deliberately is walking in Gentile country. And here we find Jesus is indeed a man of his culture and his time with its assumptions about foreigners. He even uses a common term from that time to describe a non-Jew: dog. Ouch. Jesus, what are you saying? This is Matthew's Jesus. The audience for Matthew are Jews who have come to believe or are coming to believe in Jesus as the Messiah. But here we have Jesus also humbly listening to the woman, and he's moved by her faith. Faith can be found everywhere, among all people. Jesus listens to the prayer of the Gentile as Isaiah prophesied that God would do. Our first reading, "My house will be a house of prayer for all peoples." God listens to the prayer of the foreigner, to the one who is somehow other. This particular reading that we heard from Isaiah was written at the time of the return from exile, when the returnees coming from Babylon found foreigners Samaritans in many cases, living among those Jews who stayed behind, who didn't have to go into Babylon. The struggle to incorporate others into a group is one that affected the people of the covenant from of old. In the selection from Paul in his letter to the Romans today, we hear Paul tell the Gentile Christians of the Roman Church that they are the beneficiaries of God's salvation because of the disobedience of the Jewish people, and they're not listening to Jesus and not believing in him. For Paul, it was disobedience that had prevented the Gentiles from inclusion in God's family in the first place. Paul considered the Gentiles to be, like the Jews, descendants of the first human beings, Adam and Eve, who disobeyed God, didn't listen to God. So in a funny kind of way, for Paul, two wrongs do indeed make a right. Disobedience by humanity and now disobedience by the people of faith of Israel have given non-Jews an opening to come back to God. So what meaning do these readings have for us today? Well, the struggle to incorporate others into a group is not just a problem for people of Israel years ago. It's also one that affects us today as well. As a society, with lots and lots of talk shows on radio, TV, and the internet, I think it's time to have less talk and more listen programs. Everyone needs to hear the stories of those who have been othered over the years. Whites need to listen to blacks and other minorities. And minorities also need to listen to majority. The Black Lives Matter movement has been a gift to this country. So also has the Me Too movement. Men need to listen to the stories of women who were and are still being objectified. Talk about verbing. In a world that's more about tuning out others with our earbuds plugged into our phones and pads and laptops, we're challenged to be present to the real presence of God all around us. As a church, these readings tell us to stop navel-gazing, stop focusing our energies on our differences as a corporation with our labels of conservative and liberal. We are one corporation. We are one body. We're the body of Christ. As such, we need to be about listening to one another. Let's put the Catholic back in the Catholic Church. The Catholic word meaning according to the whole. A few years back, I found myself reading a small book called Simple Faith by Margaret Silf. And in it was this phrase that she used: certainty divides us, mystery unites us. The church has to be more concerned with faith and mystery and less focused on politics and certainty. Some want the church to be focused only on faith and mystery, on that aspect, but this ignores God's will for justice for all people. So it needs to have both. The two political movements of our day, Black Lives Matter and the Me Too movement, have a powerful faith component to them that I think is being overlooked by believers. When we stop opening ourselves to the encounter with the one who is different, who is other, then we stop opening ourselves to the presence of God in our midst. That's why I was struck by the Missouri State Senator who uttered that phrase, othering. It is because the root of the word holy brings the sense of other, different, mysterious. God is wholly other, very different, very much a mystery. And yet, through Jesus, the embodiment of God, the incarnation, we come to experience divinity through him and with him and in him. We, as the church, incorporate, embody Christ. We're his body. Our world our nation, is becoming deaf to the cries of fellow citizens and fellow Christians from other countries and all other human beings. It is growing hard of hearing to others all around them. The self-righteous, right or wrong, my way or the highway, self-centered mindset continues to grow in our land, I'm afraid. How's that working for us? We, as the body of Christ, have the opportunity to act today as Jesus acted with the woman of Cana. Each of us has the responsibility to take time to listen to God in prayer, to listen to God in others that God places before us, starting with our own faith community. When we receive the Eucharist, we are given the grace to listen better. When we do this in memory of Him, we will come to know Christ and the one in whom Christ lives, the other.